Hello, today I want us to discuss a very complex but important issue, and that is in regard to if we are indeed ready for the new world order, the order of infotech and biotech. For a prologue, allow me to give you a gist of history. At the start of the 20th century, we had what we call the fascism order, and that order allowed autocratic superior regimes to colonize or rule over inferior regimes and even nation states. In the mid 20th century, we had what you call the communism order, but that order was destroyed with the destruction or the fall of the Soviet Union. After the fall of the Soviet Union, most of the countries adopted the liberalism order, the order that allowed for freedoms or guaranteed freedoms and rights through constitutions, democracies, and all laws that were able to govern people within their countries and even outside those boundaries. That order of liberalism has been able to survive from the late 20th century to the early 21st century. And that is the order we are living in today, whereby we are governed by laws. We are regulated by laws. We live by the law of the book. But with the advent of infotech and biotech, that order might soon be replaced by a very unique and different order in the world. Infotech and biotech is bringing on board two unique characteristics that human beings have never had since creation of or even evolution, for those who believe in science. The one ability that infotech and biotech are bringing on board is the ability to be interconnected. As we all know, human beings cannot be physically interconnected. We can only be put under a certain region and be governed by a certain unit of laws. However, we cannot be physically interconnected. For instance, once you teach one student in a certain region of the world, it doesn't automatically mean you've taught 100 other students in other regions of the world, because we cannot be physically interconnected. However, once you program one machine in a certain world, part of the world, you can simply automatically program other machines by simply giving them what? Updates through interconnectedness or interconnectivity of the machines. That is one unique ability that machines are bringing on board that human beings have never had, the ability to be interconnected. The second ability of machines is they can be updated. As we all know, human beings are born, they grow up, then they diminish and die. However, machines can easily be updated. A machine that is seen not to serve the purpose can be updated to serve the required purpose. And how do you update a machine? Create an update and program a machine, and then connect through a network of other machines to so many other machines across the world, and you'll have all the machines updated. Thus we're able to update our iPods, our iPhones, our laptops, our tablets, and any form of machine that you have at our disposal. But human beings cannot be updated. I'm sure some of you will argue that you can be updated through education. Education does not update you. It only transforms your mind. It only opens up your mind. It doesn't update you. The only unique facet that we've been having as human beings is the ability of cognition, cognitive skills. But that has since been manipulated by machines, because machines can now store information, they can now manipulate information, and they can now be programmed or even required to perform certain tasks, and they'll perform those tasks effectively, to some extent, even to a higher degree than human beings. And that is where the threat is. Are we now seeing the replacement of the relevance of human beings with the relevance of machines? We have since been warned that in the coming decades or even years, we might see companies that don't want to hire so many human beings. They'll simply hire a machine, a dog, and one human being. The role of the machine will be to perform all the tasks that have now been performed by a human being. The machine will be the CEO, the head of operations, the head of finance, and the head of each and every nitty-gritty in that company. The role of the dog will be to guard the machine from being stolen by this one human being. And the role of the human being will be to provide food for the dog. It will be simply to feed the dog. That means we are seeing a dangerous zone. We are entering into a dangerous zone whereby human beings will be replaced by machines. You might be having a job today, but are you guaranteed that your grandchild will have a job? We have seen discussions about creation of AI doctors, whereby you can easily manipulate one doctor to treat thousands of patients or millions of patients across the world by just a touch of a button. You can now manipulate so many things. For instance, you have seen the advent of driverless cars. You no longer need a driver in a car. You can simply use a program and set this program in a certain remote area and control the car. We have seen the advent of robotics that are replacing, progressively but slowly, replacing human beings in the service industry. You go to a motel and you are served with a robot instead of a human being. That presents a danger to the ability of human beings to manipulate data in the world, to live according to the relevance in the world, because machines are simply replacing the abilities that have for centuries and decades been done by human beings. Think of this. If a company will be able to hire a machine and send all their thousands of workers, for instance, in the case of Walmart, send more than 10,000 workers packing and just hire one machine to serve almost all human beings in their retail stores across the world, how effective will that be to the owners of the retail store? But what impact will it have to the general public, to the employees that have been turned away from their own jobs, from their sources of livelihoods? What will happen to them? That is the threat that you have to discuss, and you have to start discussing it now. Think of this. If I'm able to transact through cryptocurrencies and I no longer need the regulation of my central bank, how effective will that be in terms of transactions? I can easily buy, sell across regions without any regulations. How effective will that be? But then, how will that order impact the current setup of central banks? We shall no longer be able to regulate currencies because it will not even be feasible to use even those currencies. They'll be rendered null and void, useless. They'll just become fiat or paper. There'll be no need for central banks because we can simply transact through crypto. What will happen to a world whereby blockchains or even AI algorithms are being used to dictate what I love? For instance, what you've seen on TikTok. An algorithm is able to dictate what you love and simply present that to you. If it is a certain song or a certain genre of music, they're able to give that to you. How will that world be effective more than to a world whereby you have to simply search for what you love yourself? But then, what will be the counter impact of that very world to those people who have been employed to produce songs, to write songs? What will be the impact of that? Meaning, with the advent or with this new world order of infotech and biotech, we are simply replacing the relevance of human beings with the relevance of machines. And some will argue that the same thing happened during the Industrial Revolution. But listen to this, it was a different case. With the one job that was destroyed during the Industrial Revolution, it created multitude other jobs. Let me give you this live example. For instance, instead of using djembes to toil the land with hundreds of human beings, the djembes and human beings on the land were replaced by tractors. You simply needed a tractor to till the land instead of having human beings on that land. What did that tractor create? It created multitudes of job opportunities. It opened assembling industries. It opened industries to create parts for the tractor. It created jobs for drivers, for mechanics, for maintenance specialists, for cleaners. It created multitude of other jobs that made it possible to even connect different industries. The automobile industry was now able to connect to the agricultural industry through those agricultural extension programs. That is what happened during the Industrial Revolution. It created more goods and services, and human beings were able to flourish because they were still relevant. Their skills were put to better use. Instead of tilling the land using your hands, you are using those hands to repair a tractor. Instead of using your hands to till the land, you are using those hands to assemble parts of a tractor. That is what happened in the Industrial Revolution. But in the current world order of infotech and biotech, human beings are not so much needed. Why will you need a human being if a robot can serve food effectively in a hotel? Why will you need a human being if you can program a cab to pick up customers and drop them? Why will you need a human being? Why will you need a human being if you can have AI doctors that can administer medicine, can prescribe drugs to patients in various regions? And you know, the funny thing about it is this. For instance, if you want to train doctors of a new disease, you'll need them physically in classes, or you need to physically train all those doctors. Even if you're using Zoom or so, you'll have to train each individual doctor for them to have the new knowledge about the disease. However, with the AI doctors, you don't need to train all those doctors. You can simply come up with a program, feed it into the machine, and through the network that has already been created, supply the same program to so many other AI doctors and machines across the world. And they'll have, just by a press of a button, in a second, all the AI doctors are updated. So it will make more effective sense to the people, to the elite, but it will create huge job losses to the majority of the population. And another threat is this. At the advent or at the start of this century, the population has more than doubled to the current world population. We are almost at 9 billion, hitting 9 billion people in the world. As of 2000, we had around 3 billion people around the world. So what has happened? There is a huge growth of population and a shrinking of opportunities. Then you are bringing on board AI or infotech and biotech that is simply also replacing the shrinking jobs with machines. Meaning, sooner or later, in the coming generations of our kids and even grandkids, human beings will simply be irrelevant unless we are able to control the ability, the extent to which AI or infotech and biotech is able to go. So as we are still in the order of liberalism, let us not allow what happened during the communism order. Let us not allow at all to replace the liberalism order with the new all-world order of infotech and biotech, because it has got a huge detrimental effect to the entire human being than liberal order that has allowed for liberties and freedoms to each and every human being, regardless of their scope or their positioning in the societal setup. Therefore, I'm challenging the world. I'm challenging programmers. I'm challenging experts. I'm challenging leaders. I'm challenging you and me. Let us regulate. Let us think of a way of countering this new threat to the mere survival of human beings. Unless controlled, unless curbed, unless regulated, it has got a huge impact to how generations coming will live in their times on this world. Thank you.